Welcome to the second video of my new Adobe Illustrator, also called AI tutorial series. If you missed my first video on using the line tool, there should be a link to it somewhere up on the top. Most of the time, projects in AI are based on a combination of lines and shapes with added text and effects, so I felt the next logical step would be to talk about shapes. So this video is actually supposed to be one part, but there was so much to show, like just for the basics of shapes, that I had to make it two parts. So I will be putting out part two at the same time, but you just have to watch both to kind of get the whole project. So let's just get started. First, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the button. So here is the shapes button. So last time we looked here at the line segment tool, and now we're going over here to the shapes button. So if you click and hold it down, you see there's a rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipses, polygon, star, and flare tool, which we're not going to talk about in this video. I'll probably cover it later on, but we're going to focus on these. So first, we're going to start with the rectangle. And so there's a couple of things you can do. First, you just draw a rectangle. So here I'm just going to draw one like normal. And if you watch my first video, if you hold down the shift button and do it, you can get a perfect rectangle no matter what you do. And then also my first video I talked about alt. So if you hold down alt, like right now it's like 18.14. If I hold down alt, it doubles it. Again, I don't know why you would exactly have to do that, but it's an option. And then also the guides. So if you see me doing this, but then right there it kind of clicks to the pink line, that just means that I have a perfect square. So whether you're using shift or you can use this, that's kind of how you can figure out if you have a perfect square. So you can also click. So here I'm going to just click, and then you can set your width here. So if I want it to be 20 by 20, that gives me my square. Right, so that's kind of your squares, and now we're going to move over into the rounded rectangle tool. So here we're going to select the rounded rectangle tool, and for this one, kind of the same thing. You can draw, and as you can see, if the corners are rounded, or you can click, and with this one, you can see the height and the width, and then the corner radians. What this is, it tells you how, like, this kind of curve right here, it determines how long that is or how big that is. So this is 40, and that's why I came up like this. So if I said maybe 15 and said okay, you can see now if I click off of it that the corners aren't as rounded anymore. So when you're doing it yourself, that's how you can kind of figure that out. Now, what you can also do when it comes to corners, I'm going to put these two kind of next to each other. Like, this one's 40, and this one, I think we said it was 15. Now, if I click on this, you see these dots. There's one on each corner, and the same thing here. There's a little bit more inside in these corners. Well, if you can actually control the corners by using these dots. So right now, it's going to do all of them. So for instance, if I click this and move it in, you can see all of the corners I'm moving in. And so say I want it to be just like the one on the left, which is 40. I don't know if I can get exactly 40, but oh, there we go. So now I've created the same one. So that's also another way, if you don't really care about setting it and you just want to play around with the corners, you can do that. So that's if I put it all the way down. And then this is putting it up a little bit more. So that's playing with the corners. There is a way to make it so that you're only doing one corner at a time, but we'll figure that out at a later date as I figure it out. Alright, so that is the rounded square tool. Now we're getting to the draw ellipses. So this is the ellipsis tool. And here you're kind of just drawing circles. I'm going to draw it like this. Again, the guide will kind of tell you when it's a perfect circle. So if I keep on going, oh, there we go, perfect circle. And you can also click. So I'm going to click here and tell it what the width and height wants to be. You can use this to lock the ratio. So right now it's unlocked. So if I change this one, it won't change that one. So then you're creating more ovals. But if I want it to always stay in proportion in like an equal circle, then you want to constrain it by clicking that. Okay, so there goes my circle. So with circles, there are a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these three. I'm going to move this one to the middle, and I'm going to make it a little bigger so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. Alright, so with circles, you have a couple of things. So if you click on it, you see these corners. So these corners let you resize, but it's gonna resize basically like I can go like this. I can make it, I can stretch it, it can go bigger, it can go smaller, but it's always gonna kind of anchor on that right side. You can see the right side is staying the same. So I'm gonna put this back where it was. And then kind of same thing for the other corners, but for the top, it's gonna be kind of anchored on the bottom. So you see the bottom's not really moving, I'm just moving it. And then from the bottom, the top is gonna be anchored. So when you're trying to do things, that's kind of helpful to know depending on the direction that you're trying to make it. And the same thing for these sides. So basically, if it's these two right sides now, you see if I hover over it, there's like a little circle within a circle. Those are actually going to change the size of the circle, but it's going to keep it in proportion. So if I hold it down and then go like this, you see how it's staying centered, but it's just making it bigger or larger. So how this could be helpful, Phil, is say you want to have another circle within this one, like maybe you make this one copy, place it on right on top of itself, and then go here and then maybe shrink it. Say you want like that, so you want it like the original circle would have been right here, and this one would have been directly inside of it. So you can use it like that. You can also use the I call it the Pac-Man button, but right here they have this little thing that's coming out. If you hold it down and move it up or down, it's like you really create a Pac-Man. So if I put it up and let go, look, I have a Pac-Man. And like the kind of what we talked about in the first video, if you watch that one, if you hover here, you can change the angle. So my Pac-Man facing down, or you can make it like that. But I'm gonna put us back. And as I'm moving this, I want it back the way it was. So I'm gonna rotate until it gets back to 0, because that tells me that's where I had it. Then I'm gonna click back on this anchor point and bring it back down to where it was and close my circle back. So that's kind of cool. Something a little later that we'll talk about, but not in this video, is the direct selection tool. And with this one, you can actually manipulate certain spots on a circle. So like here, I've learned how to make an egg. I know it sounds silly, but if you ever need an egg, now you know how to make it. But if you click on this one anchor spot and pull it up, oops, sorry, that didn't work. There we go. Click on the anchor and then make sure you get the line and then pull it up. You can see it's like an egg. I thought that was so cool. But anyway, we don't want to do that right now. All right, so moving on. Okay, so that is the end of part 1, you guys. If you watched my first video, I shared that I myself just started using AI about 2 months ago. So I'm also just learning and figured I'd share everything I learned along the way. If you found this video helpful, then please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to get the latest videos and tutorials. And head on over to part 2, which should be linked right here on this page. Talk to you soon.